Myself Dr. Varun. I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Cardiac Anesthesia. My topic is myocardial protection. So myocardial protection refers to all strategies that increase heart ability to withstand ischemic insult, which together with reperfusion injury is responsible for cardiac morbidity and mortality. So coming to the strategies: cardioplegia, hypothermia, ischemic preconditioning, anesthetic preconditioning, left ventricular vent, non-cardioplegic medications, and myocardial protection for off-pump revascularization. So coming to the pathophysiology of myocardial protection, it may be due to ischemic injury, reperfusion injury, or microvascular injury. And ischemic injury can be further like protected or unprotected. In unprotected ischemia, it may be before institution of cardiopulmonary bypass and cardioplegia, with like in case of preoperative disease status, ventricular fibrillation or coronary spasm before cardiopulmonary bypass. And protected ischemia may be due to maldistribution of cardioplegia between the intermittent infusion of cardioplegia or unintentional interruption of continuous cardioplegia. So determinant of ischemic injury, it depends upon severity of ischemia, myocardial temperature, energy demand, and collateral blood flow. Now coming to the reperfusion injury, by definition, it pathological condition that is extended or that develops separately from that observed during ischemia. So it is a consequence of events occurring after restoration of blood flow. It depends upon condition of reperfusion and the composition of reperfusate. Coming to the mediators of reperfusion injury, it may be due to calcium, oxygen free radical, neutrophil mediated or complement mediated. So coming to the source of free radicals, it may be because of from mitochondria, vascular endothelium, or neutrophil, like hydrogen peroxide, oxygen free radical. Now coming to the neutrophil mediated injury, it is the interaction between adhesion molecules on neutrophil and endothelium, and adhesion molecules can be categorized into three families like selectins, integrins, and immunoglobulins. So manifestation of reperfusion injury, it may manifest with reperfusion arrhythmias. This may also lead to stone heart as described by Coley, and it may also lead to post-ischemic systolic and diastolic dysfunction, myocardial stunning, endothelial dysfunction, and myocardial necrosis, apoptosis, and specialized conduction cell damage. This we will discuss. So now coming to the specialized conduction cell damage, this conductions become non-functional early in the course of global ischemia. Recovery takes longer than the recovery of myocytes, and there may be active ventricular conduction disturbance. Blood cardioplegia is less damaging than crystalloid cardioplegia, and it may be because of uneven cooling and rewarming. Now coming to the pathological myocardium, it may be myocardial stunning, hibernation, or necrosis. So by definition, myocardial ischemia is insufficient oxygen supply to meet the myocardial oxygen demand. Stunning is acute myocardial dysfunction after ischemic event with potential for full recovery. And in hibernating myocardium, there is a chronically ischemic dysfunctional myocardium with potential for full recovery. And compared to infarcted myocardium, like there is myocardial necrosis which is caused by ischemia with no potential for recovery. So in this table, if you look at the last point, coming to the proposed change in metabolic regulation calcium. In stunning, there is cytosolic overload of calcium in early reperfusion with damage to the contractile proteins. As compared to hibernation, there is a just enough glycolytic ATP to prevent contracture. Whereas in case of ischemia, there is a myocyte necrosis if severe ischemia persists, and there is a insufficient glycolytic ATP to prevent ischemia contracture and irreversibility. So now coming to the pathology, coming to the myocardial stunning, it is a life-threatening post-ischemic myocardial impairment. It resolves over 48 to 72 hours after the ischemic event, and it is frequently seen after unstable angina and aortic close clamping. Now coming to the hibernating myocardium, persistently impaired myocardial function at rest due to impaired coronary blood flow that can be partially or completely restored if the myocardial oxygen supply demand is restored. Now coming to the factors which contribute to this myocardial stunning: metabolic consequences of oxygen deprivation, premorbid condition of the myocardium, reperfusion injury, and acute alteration in signal transduction system, and effects of circulating inflammatory mediators. Now metabolic consequences of oxygen deprivation, ischemic injury. There is rapid depletion of high energy phosphates, accumulation of lactate, and intracellular acidosis in the myocytes, leading to the contractile dysfunction. ATP level decreased to critical level, and there is inability to maintain electrical gradient which requires active transport of sodium, potassium, calcium, which leads to cellular edema, intracellular calcium overload, and loss of membrane integrity. Ischemic injury can occur at 3 major points during the surgical procedure, either before cardiopulmonary bypass, like ongoing ischemia from acute coronary syndrome, hypertension, arrhythmia, cardiogenic shock, or coronary artery spasm. At the initiation of cardiopulmonary bypass, high oxygen content of blood extracorporeally oxygenated makes the tissue vulnerable to reoxygenation damage, which can be mitigated by altering the oxygen tension of perfusate. During cardiopulmonary bypass, depends upon cardioplegia composition, or it may be due to maldistribution. And after release of closed clamp, it may be due to kinking of graft or tight anastomosis, or air emboli present in the coronary artery, ventricular fibrillation at low perfusion pressure, poor ventricular performance, or dysarrhythmia causing hypertension. Now, determinants of ischemic injury, it depends upon the duration and the severity of antecedent and unprotected ischemia. Electromechanical activity during closed clamp, there is increased oxygen demand even in the presence of hypothermia. Myocardial temperature, metabolic rate doubles if the temperature increases by 10 degrees Celsius. Nutrition and status of the heart, like catecholamine, they increase oxygen demand and contractility. Depending on the comorbidities like hyperlipidemia, which is a pro-inflammatory state which generates free radicals. Now, reperfusion injury, at the release of closed clamp, there is restoration blood flow which leads to the myocardial reperfusion. With reperfusion, the paradox occurs, which is represented by balance of substrate delivery restoration needed for normal metabolism that also can act as substrate for injurious free radical production. Now, free radicals, there is dysfunction of proteins involved in ion transport and acceleration contraction coupling. Injury to the membrane through damage mediated through lipid peroxidation, release of pro-apoptotic factors. Free radical independent calcium overload. Reperfusion leads to the activation of sodium hydrogen exchanger in an attempt to correct intercellular pH, increase in intercellular sodium, which activates the sodium calcium exchanger, calcium influx, and increase intracellular calcium. This increased intercellular calcium activates protein kinase, leads to the degradation of proteins and phospholipids, and decreased calcium dependent myofilament strength. Now, inflammatory mediators. Myocardial reperfusion associated with acute myocardial ischemic injury induces inflammation, which is mediated by neutrophils and humoral inflammatory components. Prostaglandins and their adverse effects appears to be synergistic with increase in intercellular calcium. Neutrophil activation during cardiopulmonary bypass, they accumulate in microvasculature, migrates, and they activate enzymes, reactive oxygen species, and toxic substances. Then there are pro-inflammatory cytokines, complement activation, and toll-like receptors. Now, coming to the alteration in signal transduction system. Myocardial dysfunction specific to the cardiopulmonary bypass relates to the acute alteration in beta-adrenergic signal transduction. There may be acute desensitization and downregulation of myocardial beta-adrenergic receptor during cardiopulmonary bypass. It has been seen after cardiac surgery. Now, coming to the different strategies, either by cardioplegia, hypothermia, ischemic preconditioning, anesthetic preconditioning, left ventricular vent, non-cardioplegic medications, and myocardial protection for off-pump revascularization. Coming to the hypothermia, there is a decrease in oxygen consumption by decreasing the metabolic activity, and this increases the tolerance to ischemia for a given period of time and expands the window of safe ischemic time between infusion of cardioplegia solution, and it helps to preserve the high energy phosphates and decrease the accelerated neurotransmitter release, decrease apoptosis, and promotes the electromechanical inactivity, decrease lipid peroxidase, and allows lower pump flow, less blood trauma, and better organ protection. So, when we look at this table, if we look at like in a if we look at cardioplegia after cardioplegia and hypothermia of 22 degrees Celsius, we can see the oxygen demand goes up to 0.3 ml per 100 milligram per minute as compared to beating an empty heart. There is a requirement of 2.9 ml per 100 milligram per minute. So, we can see with the decreasing temperature, there is a decreased oxygen consumption, and along with this cardioplegia, the maximum is 0.3 ml per 100 milligram per minute at 22 degrees Celsius. So, now coming to the adverse effects of hypothermia, it impairs the oxygen delivery and dissociation, decreases the rate of contraction, induces ventricular fibrillation, increases the intercellular swelling, sodium accumulation, impairs the blood flow autoregulation, and decreases the red blood cell deformation, increases the Rulex formation, and inhibits the sarcoplasmic reticulum calcium uptake and release. Now, coming to the myocardial metabolism, under the basal condition, source of energy 60% by fat, 35% by carbohydrate, 5% by ketones and amino acids. And by aerobic metabolism, 36 molecules of ATP per mole of glucose, and as compared to anaerobic metabolism, only 2 moles of ATP per mole of glucose. So myocardial oxygen requirement in ml per 100 gram per minute. In a normal beating heart, it's about 9 to 10 ml. In empty beating heart, 5 to 6, and with the arrested heart, goes up to 1.1 ml per 100 gram per minute. By hypothermia, additional 50% reduction per 10 degrees Celsius cooling. Now coming to the left ventricle vent, increased volt tension and there is a increased oxygen demand, and also with increased heart rate and contractility. So according to the Laplace law, volt tension is directly proportional to the pressure and radius, and venting of left ventricle causes cardiac decompression and helps in de-airing. It helps in dry operative field, and sites for LV vent can be ascending aorta, right-sided pulmonary vein, and left ventricular apex. Now coming to the ischemic preconditioning. Initial brief sublethal ischemic injury conveys protection against the subsequent ischemic insults. It reduces infarct size, decreases the dysfunction of cardiac contractile elements, decreases arrhythmia, protects the coronary endothelium, improves the post-ischemic recovery and function, and remote ischemic preconditioning and post-conditioning, which is mediated by adenosine, also improves the ventricular performance. Now coming to the anesthetic preconditioning. Volatile anesthetics, they provide some cardioprotection, they relieve the effect during ischemia reperfusion, and modulates the activity of potassium ATP channels in mitochondria and sarcolemma. Late preconditioning. And negative inotropy and chronotropy decrease oxygen consumption. As low as 0.25 Mach is protective, but maximum effect with 1.5 Mach, and also provides renal, cerebral, and hepatic preconditioning. So myocardial protection during the off-pump revascularization by maintenance of systolic blood pressure by optimizing preload condition and use of vasopressors, because perfusion to ischemic myocardium via collateral is dependent upon the perfusion pressure. So careful use of traction suture, apical heart positioner, and coronary stabilizer to prevent compression of cardiac chamber and hemodynamic compromise. So thoughtful selection of order of construction of distal anastomosis, like anastomosis of highly collateralized target vessel first, limits the degree of regional ischemia. Construction of one or more proximal anastomosis early in the sequence is an adjunct to the selection of order. Anastomosis of LAD with Lima pedicle first requires minimal lifting of heart, and subsequent vessels can be grafted with the benefit of collateral flow from the Lima to LAD. And intracoronary shunts near bloodless field they provide, and intramyocardial vessels placement of occlusive loop dangerous. So in case of RSA, to avoid bradyarrhythmia, and critical anatomy like occlusion of important collateralizing vessel may lead to global ischemia. Non-cardioplegic medications like erythropoietin, N-acetylcysteine, desloratadine, and statins. So now coming to the chemical methods. So first, Ringer described high concentration of potassium would arrest the heart, and Melrose and associates in 1955 and 57 they suggested to induce asystole during CPB with hyperkalemic arresting solution by mixing potassium citrate solution with 18 ml of blood, which was then infused by handheld syringe into the root of aorta proximal to the aortic rostrum. Later it was called as cardioplegia solution by Sargent and Lamb. So Brettschneider et al. And Krish et al. They crystallite formulation which mimicked intracellular ionic concentration, intracellular crystallite solution. And coming to the Brettschneider HTK, that is histidine tryptophan alpha ketoglutarate solution, which is marketed as custodial HTK solution. It uses low calcium, low sodium, and procaine with histidine buffers to achieve a non-depolarized arrest rather than hyperkalemia induced depolarized arrest. So Bainbridge introduced St. Thomas cardioplegias into the clinical use in 1975, and St. Thomas was later modified based on the further experimental studies. That St. Thomas solution number 2, currently marketed as Plagiosol. So Follett and colleagues from Dr. Buckberg laboratory introduced the concept of hyperkalemic blood cardioplegia, and the physiologic attributes of blood, that is superior buffering capacity, endogenous oxygen radical scavengers, detoxifying substances, and superior oxygen transport capacity. So established as popular strategy that has facilitated surgery and vastly improved the patient outcome. So coming to the cornerstones of myocardial protection. First, by the end of 1980, rapid chemical arrest to conserve high energy phosphate stores and reduce ischemia, hypothermia to reduce metabolic rate, adjuncts to reduce the effects of ongoing ischemia, then continuous or intermittent delivery to restore the tissue oxygenation. Further developments in cardioplegia like optimizing the delivery, retrograde gentle cardioplegia delivery pressure, overcoming the adverse effects of hypothermia, identifying the metabolic enhancements like ATP generation, pH management, and magnesium calcium accumulation, understanding the pathophysiology of ischemia and reperfusion. So cardioplegia, intentional temporary cessation of cardiac activity mainly for cardiac surgery by selectively perfusing the heart and administrating the agents in high concentration that may otherwise not well be tolerated by other organs or systematically without complication. During the selective cardiac delivery, drugs at cardioprotective or anti-inflammatory concentration may be diluted below the effective or active concentration after admixture with systemic blood. Potassium, which is often given at greater than 5 times the normal blood concentration, it acts as a vector for pharmacologic therapy to the heart, which agents that target specific aspects of ischemic or reperfusion injury and provides the cardioprotection during ischemia and reperfusion. So, coming to the infusion types, it may be antegrade, retrograde, or combined retrograde antegrade. Infusion temperature may be cold, tepid, or warm. Infusion interval may be intermittent or continuous. So, coming to the antegrade delivery through the aortic root, coronary ostia, or bypass conduit, that is graft, after the distant anastomosis have been completed. Advantage is simple and uniform distribution of cardioplegia. Disadvantages are significant coronary artery disease in case of aortic regurgitation leading to the poor antegrade coronary perfusion, and aortic valve in aortic root surgery, and injury to the coronary ostium. Coming to the retrograde delivery, advantages are in aortic incompetence and aortic root surgery. Disadvantages are decreased blood flow to the right ventricle and septum and risk of rupture of coronary sinus. So, coming to the single dose or multi-dose cardioplegia, single dose or continuous in adult heart, multi-dose cardioplegia, cold cardioplegia every 20 to 30 minutes, warm cardioplegia every 15 to 20 minutes. Hypothermia versus normothermia or blood versus crystalloid. So, although hypothermia has various benefits, but it also reduces membrane fluidity and reduces the ligand receptor interactions on which effects of many drugs depend, like calcium channel blocker. Therefore, effectiveness of certain cardioprotective drugs can be reduced when hypothermic strategies are used. So, adequate delivery is very important, particularly to the areas with occlusive coronary artery disease, because cardioplegic solution cannot exert the effect for which it is designed if it is not adequately delivered to the target area. Now, coming to the characteristics, there are only two types of cardiac solution: intercellular or extracellular. Intercellular is Brett-Schneider solution, which is used mainly for preservation of heart and abdominal organ. Extracellular type Sandt-Thomas or Buck solution, which is used mainly for cardiac surgery. So, coming to the crystalloid cardioplegia, this solution contains minimal amount like 0.6 ml per 100 ml at a pO2 of 100 mm of mercury at a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius. They contain minimum amount of dissolved oxygen, whereas myocardial consumes 0.33 ml of oxygen per 100 gram at 15 degrees Celsius. Because even a short period of ischemia results in the gradual accumulation of oxygen depth, therefore moderate to severe myocardial hypothermia is necessary to prevent the rapid degradation of energy stores. To overcome the oxygen deficit issue, oxygenation of crystalloid cardioplegia has been used and it has shown decrease in the creatinine CKMB level. What are the disadvantages? Extensive rewarming period which may exceed 30 to 45 minutes, slow recovery of myocardial metabolism, poor response to post-operative hemodynamic stress, and gradual accumulation of oxygen depth and myocardial damage if adequate hypothermia is not maintained. Now, coming to the blood cardioplegia. Advantages: it provides oxygenated environment and method for intermittent deoxygenation of the heart during rest. It is superior to oxygenated crystalloid. Better removal of carbon dioxide, excellent buffering, osmotic and reducing agent. Presence of colloid avoids the adverse oncotic pressure gradient. Offers a number of endogenous antioxidants and free radical scavengers. Allows for electrolyte composition and pH that are physiologic. Preserves the microvascular response compared with crystalloid cardioplegia. Limits the hemodilution when large volume of cardioplegic solution is used, and less complex than other solution to prepare. Now, what are the concerns? Hyperthermic shift to the left of oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, therefore reducing the release of oxygen at tissue level. Experimental evidence that blood cardioplegia may not protect the myocardium at low temperature, and there is a potential for hypothermia induced sludging and red cell Rolex formation. Now, Manish and colleagues have coined the term miniplegia, now called as microplegia, administering a small amount of prepared arresting solution through a pump driven syringe to otherwise unmodified blood originating from the CPV circuit. The volume and delivery rate of the concentrated potassium is incrementally decreased to the lowest level possible to maintain the quiescence. The key to this type of myocardial protection is nearly continuous delivery of blood solution to myocardium at a tepid temperature. The continuous administration avoids the need for added buffer like methamine, THAM and citrate phosphate dextrose because aerobic metabolism is maintained throughout. Duration of arrest resulting in the high production of energy to drive ionic pump responsible for sodium, chloride and calcium homeostasis and avoids the intercellular acidosis. Now what are the benefits of microplagia solution? Increased oxygen supply, increased presence of endogenous antioxidants and detoxification factors, improve control of blood volume to reduce edema resulting from hyposmolality, bleeding complications and potassium overdose, increased convenience and practicality, better cost effective. So now coming to the delineated solution, like 4 parts of crystallite in 1 part of blood, components are potassium chloride 26 mg per liter, lidocaine, mannitol, magnesium sulfate and sodium bicarbonate and plasmolite A. So full dose of 20 ml per kg and single dose antichrate 1 to 4 minutes at rate of 250 to 450 ml per minute up to 90 minutes. And for pediatric patients 30 ml per kg, and in AVR or aortic insufficiency direct arterial perfusion is given. Retrograde delivery is an adjunct in case of arterial regurgitation and it is not contraindicated, and hyperkalemia and hypocalcemia is maintained. Coming to the St. Thomas number 2 solution, 1 part of crystallite and 4 parts of blood. Contents are magnesium sulfate, potassium chloride, procaine hydrochloride, sodium bicarbonate, sodium potassium chloride and lactate. For both adults and children, first dose of 20 ml per kg, subsequent dose 10 ml per kg. Cold cardioplegia, antegrade or retrograde is appreciated. Repeat dose after every 20 minutes is required. Now coming to the pressure and flow rates. In aortic root, pressure of around 70 mm mercury and flow rate of 300 to 350 ml per minute. In conduits, pressure of 50 mm mercury and at nearly 100 ml per minute. Coronary sinus at or below 40 mm mercury at the rate of 200 ml per minute. Terminal cardioplegia, hot shot or reanimation cardioplegia. So reperfusion of previously ischemic or arrested heart is a time of enhanced vulnerability to all the manifestation of reperfusion injury. Control of reperfusion can be applied before the cross clamp is removed by using the extracorporeal cardioplegia circuit to deliver warm blood with or without additive at controlled pressure selected to the heart. Hyperkalemia is not necessary to maintain arrest during this phase because adequate oxygen is being delivered by blood. So a controlled terminal reperfusion, which is often called as terminal cardioplegia or hot shot, has the potential to wash out of metabolites and improves the post-ischemic metabolic derangement that may have occurred during arrest, acts as a vehicle for delivery of drugs targeting the specific reperfusion injury, and reduces the instability which are associated with cold-warm interface if the temperature is gradually ramped to normothermia, and reestablishes the transmural homogeneity in tissue potassium, temperature and acidosis to suppress the post-operative arrhythmia, and provides the opportunity to resuscitate and stabilize the heart electrically, mechanically and metabolically before it has to resume command of circulation. Warm terminal cardioplegia has been shown to beneficial in post-operative recovery in pediatric heart surgery. Now dose of hot shot 20 ml per kg, 350 ml per minute for adult and through the retrograde cannula at the pressure of 20 to 40 mm mercury. Warm cardioplegia, it may be used in sickle cell anemia or presence of cold agglutinin. Doses 20 ml per kg. So effects of cardioplegia on ischemia: avoids the ischemic injury by reducing oxygen demand to less than 10% of that of working heart by producing the immediate asystole and rapidly initiating hypothermia, provides the intermittent deoxygenation and improves the anaerobic metabolism. So inducing the rapid and complete cardiac arrest. Myocardial oxygen consumption at 37 degrees Celsius in beating 10 ml per 100 gram per minute, in beating empty perfused it is 5.5 ml per 100 gram per minute, and in fibrillating empty perfused it is 6.5 ml per 100 gram per minute. With cardioplegia empty cross clamp, normothermic arrest, that is 37 degrees Celsius, it is around 1 ml per 100 gram per minute, and in hypothermic arrest there is a at 22 degrees Celsius there is oxygen consumption is around 0.3 ml per 100 gram per minute, that is up to 97% reduction in the oxygen demand, and in hypothermic arrest at 10 degrees Celsius and there is oxygen demand goes up to 0.14 ml per 100 gram per minute. So it is not recommended to go below 20. There won't be any further decrease in demand, otherwise it can be harmful also. Inducing the rapid and complete cardiac arrest with the help of depolarized arrest, polarized arrest or inhibition of calcium influx. So depolarized arrest, hyperkalemia, Potassium concentration 10 milliequivalent per liter. Transmembrane potential rises from -85 to -65. Myocardium becomes unexcitable. Sodium channel blockade. No phase 0 of action potential. No action potential is generated and depolarized arrest is there. And between 10 to 30, 12 to 30 millimole per liter, cardiac standstill within 1 to 2 minutes under hypothermia. At more than 40 to 50 milliequivalent per liter, it is avoided because tissue and coronary vascular endothelial damage may occur. Coming to the polarized arrest, reduced ionic movement, threshold potential is not reached and window will not be activated. Reduced myocardial energy by sodium channel blockade, ATP sensitive, potassium channel activation, and adenosine and acetylcholine. Thank you.